Hello again, everybody. Welcome to our final show for this evening. We're going to have the Snakehead Fishing Report with Stephen Kambotrout Kambouris. I'm really excited. Before we bring him in, though, we have question of the evening, and the prize tonight is brought to us by Old School Tackle Company. So we have tonight, what do we have? 4 half-ounce jig heads. And we also have some 3 1/4 hammer shimmer smoke and shimmer paddle tails. Paddle tails are always the answer, I say. So whether you're fishing for bass, pickerel, snakehead, whatever it is, choose Old School, and you can check out their other amazing lures and jig heads and other products that they have, including shirts and hats at fisholdschool.com. So thank you so much to our sponsor for providing this for us tonight. So without further ado, we're going to bring in the man of the hour, or the half hour. How are you doing there?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm great. Enjoying this seasonally unusual weather here. It keeps on changing in and out. But how is it rocking for you? We're going to do what we're going to call our bait bite. Oh, sorry, bait. It's a tongue twister. I got it right the first time. Grant's going to kill me for this one. So we're going to do a quick rundown of what's going on as far as fishing. What's going on with the bass? What's going on with pickerel? What's going on with snakehead? What's going on, and how are you catching it there?
Yeah. So I was very, very, very lucky enough to make it out today. And this unseasonably warm weather that we're out here all hopefully enjoying really worked out. The biggest producer for me today, I'm going to try and hold it up for you. This is the Z-Man Bullseye spinnerbait, and that's paired with a 4-inch paddle tail. I know you're just talking about paddle tails over there. That's a diesel minnow right there. Mm-hmm. Now, I was slow rolling this thing today. By far and away, that was my best producing lure today. However, I also caught a lot of snakehead. I caught bass. I caught crappie. And I caught them on a mix between this Bullseye spinnerbait and just the straight minnow presentations under a float, which some folks hate on that. I don't care. It's too much fun. It brings up the little kid in me. I love watching the floats drop. I also recently made it out for pickerel. And again, this kind of slow rolling of a spinnerbait worked out really well for me, as well as the minnows. But I know the inline spinners are also working really well, especially on the pickerel side of things. So it's I can't say enough. You know, I always say in my kind of seminars, even during the winter, if you can find a 3 or 4 day warm spell and then fish that afternoon of what the 2nd, 3rd, 4th day of that warm spell, you can get on snakehead. And I definitely did. It was a great day.
That's awesome. And what's the retrieve on that? Because I know when I went out the 2 times that I had in the past month, it's just dead in the water and slight jerking and slight moving. But can you tell us what's your secret to your retrieve and what technique we're using?
Yeah, so it was different today, but that's probably because the water temperature where I was fishing was actually in the mid 50s.
Oh, okay.
I know, right? Like it was warm, like way warmer than Maine Bay or anything like that. So my retrieve today was primarily kind of a slow, steady retrieve, but I was really trying to reel it just fast enough to kind of keep it just off the bottom or lightly graze and bumping the bottom right there. Mm-hmm. Roddy's right there saying number 2 Meps. He knows. He knows. he was tearing them up. That's tight lines. I want to say 302 is his handle. If y'all haven't checked him out, I would check him out. He was tearing up pickerel the other day. But that kind of slow retrieve, and anytime you feel you hit the bottom or you might feel like it'll have a little bit of grass on it, give it a nice sharp pop. And a lot of times that sharp pop, especially if it's bouncing off structure, will be the point at which it triggers that strike too. Mm-hmm. So slow roll, either just lightly grazing or bumping off the bottom, that's been the ticket for me.
That's awesome. Thank you for that amazing tip. And you can find more amazing tips and great videos. I have some questions on one of your recent ones.
All right.
Can you tell us where we can find those videos on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube?
Yeah, so the part of my name you see on the screen right here, this says Kambotrout. Do a quick search for that in YouTube, and you'll find my channel on there. I guarantee you'll find that channel on there. Pretty much, unless life or work gets in the way, which it does sometimes, I usually try to have at least one long form content video out and a bunch of short form content pretty much every week. So I'm going to be editing late into the night tonight, trying to see what I can do with the snakehead video that I got today.
That's awesome. There's one video I was watching today. It was the Amped Up Gauntlet Championship. That was really intense for a little bit there.
Man.
Tell us about that tournament or that championship really quick and what was going on in that video.
Yeah. So Amped Up, if you don't follow Amped Up Outdoors, I definitely highly recommend them. Tommy Robinson and crew over there are a great bunch of people, and they hold a lot of great events for everyone to get out there, to learn, to hang out, and to form that community. So the gauntlet itself, the gauntlet was a 3-round tournament series. You had the first round, which is a qualifying round. I think we started with around 50 people. That only the top 20 of that first round progressed to round 2. In round 2, it was that top 20, and that round right there narrowed it down to the top 5. So the top 5 of us were the ones who were in that last video, out there fishing in the gunpowder. And I want to say, if I can remember everybody's name, it was me, Eddie Weber, Boom. I want to say Nick Vega. I could be wrong, but I think it was Nick Vega. And the last one was Jack Hare. And Jack's the one who actually ended up taking it. And, congrats to him. I'll never forget it. It was the first time I fished with Jack. I don't know what kind of trolling motor he has, but he had his kayak up on plane. And he was just like going twice as fast as any kayak I'd ever seen in my life out there. It was ridiculous. But anyway, it was a really fantastic bite, way better than I expected, because we had a relatively calm morning. It got windy later in the day, but relatively calm morning and an outgoing tide. And it was beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet, watch the video. Yes. It's right there at sunrise. And the bass and the snakehead were out on this flat with this, I don't know if it was coontail or hydrilla or what this submerged vegetation was, but there was just activity everywhere. You can see it in the video. It's just like bait fish and bass and everything just hitting everywhere.
Yes.
It was a fantastic time, although it did have some mishaps that ended up costing me in the end. Yeah.
Yes, I like your transparency about that. And what I enjoy about your videos, besides they're educational, they're funny, they're fun, and sometimes even inclusive of your family, which is nice. Yeah. You put into description a great amount of detail about the gear you used, the tackle you used, some other really great tips that are amazing to use, especially if you haven't fished these waters and you want to fish for a snakehead. So definitely tune in for that. And also check out the Legion of Anglers, which Stephen is also part of. Really quick, before we go to the first question, can you really just tell us a little bit about the Legion of Anglers and how people can follow?
Yeah, so Legion of Anglers, me and my team, we have chapters now in Delaware and Virginia and Maryland. And really what our goal is to help bring everybody together to take care of the water. That's something we do. You can actually look on our Facebook page. We have our schedule of events laid out more or less for the year right now. Might be some tweaks here and there, but for the most part, it's laid out. But aside from the cleanups that we do, we also do a lot of fishing meetups. We host some tournaments. Our overall goal is really to just kind of build that community, to get people out on the water and help them better enjoy themselves and to respect the environment that we all enjoy out there. It was one of my best memories, I think, with that was a meetup we did over in, I think it was Dundee Creek. And at the end of it is when we actually sat down, we had hot dogs and shore lunch and that kind of stuff. But Rashawn put on a clinic, a literal clinic, helping folks tune in their bait casters.
Oh, wow.
We had some folks out there who were backlashing on every cast. And if you don't have someone to walk you through how to tune a bait caster, it can be a real pain. But that's really what we're all about out there, is kind of having that kind of FaceTime with other fishermen and helping them to, be better fishermen.
Right on. Grant and I really appreciate what you all do, and we're really big on conservation and education. So we definitely support that and support you guys in what you do. So thank you so much, and thanks for being a part of the team.
Absolutely.
So without further ado, let's go into some of the questions that are coming up here. Rodney Green, Stephen, do you think that this year will be better than last year because of hurricanes and the crazy weather fronts? Yeah, we've had some crazy weather.
So, I mean, it's always hard to say until you actually are in that year and, you're kind of like living it and looking back. But my gut reaction is yes. Like I do think this year will probably be better. I talked to a lot of guys and they were saying like in 2022, a lot of them caught less snakehead overall. Now, the reasons for that, it's really hard to dig into because you're looking at each individual fisherman. Okay, where are you fishing? How much pressure does it get? What were you using? What were the conditions? So you can go on and on down the line trying to diagnose why it was that way. But I did hear a lot of anglers saying that 2022 was not their best year for snakehead fishing.
Hmm.
I mean, I had a pretty good year. There's no two ways about it. But I did notice in a lot of areas that I had gone to a lot, I didn't do as well as I had in the past. Although I did have some days where I did better than I've ever done. So it's kind of hard to qualify. But if I had to say if I think 2023 is going to be better, I'd say yes.
All right, right on. So Brian, any seminars scheduled yet? Great question. Fishing shows and seminars help me get through the winter. Oh, that's great.
Well, Brian, just make sure you add YouTube videos to that list of things that get you through the winter. No, but for real, I do actually have 2 seminars lined up as of today. Those are going to be over at the Kent Island Fishermen's Club. There we go. The first one's going to be on March 1st. The one after that's going to be in September. But I'll probably add a few more to the list between now and then. But those are the 2 I have locked in for 2023 so far.
Awesome. And what can people expect from these seminars? Obviously, snakehead's a topic, but what other things can people look forward to in those seminars?
Yeah, so it depends on the kind of the venue. Sometimes we bring a rigged kayak in there, and we show the kayak rig. Generally speaking, you'll probably see Rashawn over there. Sometimes you'll see Butch over there. They'll have all their lures for sale and all that kind of stuff. And I'll walk through some of the different gear. And generally speaking, when I do my seminars, I have like a big screen set up so I can run through some of either A, the most entertaining videos, or B, those videos that help me emphasize a certain point. Like, don't set the hook early, and you'll see me setting the hook way too early and missing a fish, and then you'll hear all the bleeps come out of the screen and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the seminars are a great time because after I run through, or even as I'm running through all those different tips and background on snakehead history and all that stuff, people have questions, and that's where we really kind of get into it, is when people start asking questions, which is a lot of fun. I love having that kind of back and forth.
Yeah, that's an amazing opportunity, not just to learn, but to get to know the certain members of the Legion of Anglers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sounds like great camaraderie and opportunity to learn so much. So that's great. I'm hoping to get in on one of those too. That would be awesome. So Christine Figliosi, she's actually with Third Generation Plumbing and Tile, our sponsor. So thank you very much. Do heavy rains help snakehead move from freshwater to salty water by swimming on surface? And salinity is, thank you, I'm having a hard time with words tonight, is reduced temporarily. That's a good question.
It's a great question, and the answer is a full-throated yes. Yes, so I believe they call them freshettes. And what I'm describing there are these outflows of fresh water that move out into salt water during those heavy rain periods. And that is one major way that snakehead expand their range, because you could have snakehead, say, in the Magathie River, right? But then we have these freshettes during a heavy rain that are going to flow all the way out through the mouth and then down along the bay. And then before you know it, you have snakehead in the South River. And that's just like one example, right? And I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but it wouldn't surprise me if it happened either. So they do follow those freshwater freshettes. They follow those during heavy rains. Also during heavy rains is when they'll start, like if it's a really heavy rain, and you're in a snakehead populated area, you'll see them crossing the road too. Like a lot of y'all out there have probably seen videos of salmon crossing the road like that, like up in Alaska. Snakehead do it too. I know guys who will go down there with gigs. They look kind of like short pronged pitchforks, and they'll actually stand on the road and catch snakehead that way. But like you'll see snakehead with their backs and everything all like pretty much out of the water during those high rain events. That's one way they expand their range is when they get all those extra rain, you flood that land, snakehead instinctively will follow and expand their range by doing that. Fascinating species. Great question.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty amazing. That is a great question. All right. We got another one coming in from D-Train. Cambo is stationed at Fort Carson, and so is I. Thank you for your service. What company was he? What company was he assigned?
Oh,
and
geez.
what was his favorite fishing spot in Colorado Springs?
Oh, wow. So my first time over in Colorado was after I redeployed from Iraq for the first time. So I think I was there 05, 06, and then I deployed 07, 08. I'm going back and through it because we reflagged at one point, but I was under 4 ID. At that point when I was out there, I was under 4 ID. I want to say we were 4th Special Troops Battalion, 4th BSTB, I think. You know, my memory is terrible to go back and check my DD-214 or something like that. all my old orders to get you exactly. But to answer the second part of your question, I mean, Colorado, and you can see in my name, Kambotrout. I grew up trout fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who knows anything about trout fishing knows that Colorado is just an incredible place to be for trout fishing. And like my favorite place to fish nearby was on post, because Fort Carson has, once you go way out past the ranges, they have some really great reservoirs out there. Really just fantastic. And they stock them with incredible trout out there. My wife, the first fish she ever caught with me was like a 26-inch, 6-pound rainbow trout. It's like I was walking around the shoreline fishing, and I hear screaming back from my left, and I'm like, I see this ultralight rod just doubled over, and the drag was peeling out, and that was like a 26-inch rainbow. Which, I mean, if that's your first trout or first fish ever, that's a high bar you're going to set for yourself. But that was the nearby location. Another place out there I highly recommend is 11 Mile Canyon and 11 Mile Reservoir. 11 Mile Canyon, one of the most picturesque places you could ever go. Like, it's as the name implies, it's a narrow canyon where this river flows down through all these different waterfalls and riffles. The structure is fantastic. The fishing is incredible. Beautiful rainbows, browns, and all these other species, and some very big ones too. And then in the reservoir proper, you have giant trout. There's actually a stretch between that reservoir and I want to say Spinny Mountain Reservoir, where I think it has a certain species of trout you can't find elsewhere.
Oh.
So those are my two locations I have to pick. For nearby would be like the reservoirs on post, but farther out, 11 Mile Canyon. Oh man, I can't recommend it. My wife loved it out there just because it was so beautiful. She lives for that kind of fishing out there.
Wow. We just got some amazing spots from Kambotrout. Thank you. Here on the Fishing Channel. Rodney Green, do you like to fish for snakehead for sport?
I absolutely do. But I mean, full disclosure, like downstairs, I have 6 snakehead in the cooler that I need to clean. So do I like to fish for snakehead for sport? 100%. Like I think they have to be one of the top freshwater sport fish there is. Now I know a lot of folks are gonna quibble with me over that. You got those very strong dividing lines there, but I love fishing snakehead for sport. But they're also my favorite fish to eat. So it just depends on what my freezer looks like as to whether I'm going to keep that fish or not.
Right. They are very tasty.
They are.
Who else we have here? We have Fred Spoke. Forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong. What's your favorite subsurface snake lure?
Really, that's going to depend on the conditions, right? So today, my favorite lure to throw is definitely the Z-Man Bullseye spinnerbait. Yep. However, my normal go-to for subsurface is probably going to be the real All-American curly, and that's a curly-tailed kicker frog. I love throwing that. That lure, probably more than any other, resulted in like my tournament success this year. But there's also the American Snakehead custom spinnerbait. I love throwing that. As far as subsurface, I always have a weightless paddle tail or weightless zoom fluke on me, because that can also be a fantastic lure to throw for snakehead. But yeah, and then of course in the colder months, what I'm normally throwing is like a number 3 or number 4 Mets. Like that is killer for snakehead. So that's kind of a list of lures I can give you right there for subsurface. It's yeah, I don't know. I can't narrow it down to one. It all depends on conditions.
So Dominique, do you still trout fish locally?
Not as much as I used to, but the answer is yes. Like I'm probably going to take a trip to there's one hidden gem, and it's probably within 25 to 30 minutes of Baltimore that I can go to and catch native browns on. Now it takes some work to get to it. You're going to hike, but that's why it's a hidden gem, is that it takes so much work to get to it. You know, like I know folks always ask me, where'd you go? Where'd you catch that? I'm like, I can't tell you, bro. Because it's within 30 minutes of a major population center. Like once this place is well known, I'm afraid folks will go there and keep all those native trout, you know, and that would just, you know, break my heart to see this like pristine. And it's only like maybe like a mile of water that's fishable. It's a really tucked away hidden gem. It's just incredible. But yeah, so yeah, I do still trout fish locally. But if I have to drive by a snakehead spot to get there, the odds aren't looking good for the trout.
Awesome. All right. So we have one more question before we'll go to question of the evening. Michael McHottie, how are you?
Hey, Mike.
And is that your real last name? Are you?
Absolutely not.
Yes. Commentator from Grant in the background here. Are you generally superstitious and have strict routines you stick to for a good day of fishing? Most importantly, with the the ponytail hairstyle continue through 2023.
So let's answer the most important question first. Like, will the hair survive through through this year? So the answer is yes. The hair ain't going anywhere. However, I think I'm going to trim it down to my shoulders, just because like I'm tired of and I'm sure as a woman with long hair, me complaining about long hair sounds ridiculous, but it's like when I sit down and in the car and I'm have my hair trapped between the seat and my shoulders, and I go to turn my head and it's just a pain. So I'm going to trim it probably to shoulder length or something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I understand that I got my hair caught in a reel and a rod a number of times. This is actually cut.
Now, when I go out on the water, I braid it up, because I could see myself doing that, or getting thorns and bugs and everything else just riddled through my hair. But for the other question, do I have strict routines or am I superstitious? The one thing that I hate to do, and sometimes I can't help myself, and it's just superstition, but the one thing I hate to do is think I'm going to have a really good day before I get on the water. Like if I'm heading out and I'm like, man, it's going to be a good day. Conditions are lined up, the cycle of the moon and the fish and yada, yada, yada. It's going to be a fire day.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, when I'm feeling like that, it is not a fire day. So that's the one thing that I try to tamp down on myself and be like, I like to go out and either expect a bad day or expect nothing, and then just let the day unfold.
Yes.
And I feel like when I do that, I generally do better.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the same. I try to release the outcome and just be in the moment and enjoy the journey, and I usually do my best with that. It's when I start getting tense and anxious and I'm like, gee, am I going to catch it? It's getting to the end of the day. Oh my gosh, it's not, it unravels when that happens. So yeah.
One more question.
All right. So one more question by Grant. Cambo, are you aware that you haven't fished a Grant yet? Yes.
I am aware. I recall the last time we made it out, I think it was with Kevin, Kevin H. And I think we went out. Did we catch anything that day? I feel like we had a real tough day that day, man. We need to get out there and wipe it off the books, bro.
Yeah. I'm playing a little violin on that one.
Remember, Snakehead.
Yes. So is that it? Are we pulling this last one? Or are we good for question of the evening?
We're good.
All right, let's roll it. So who do you choose for question of the evening?
I'm going to have to, am I allowed to give it to Christine? I know she's a sponsor, but I feel like she had a really good question.
You choose whoever you want. No pressure. It doesn't have to be a sponsor. It could be sponsored.
No, winner's Christine then. I like the question.
Well, congratulations, Christine. Great question, yeah? So thank you so much, everyone who tuned in. This is a treat. We got some really great tips. We got some cool spots. It was just great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank your family for this time, too, because I know that it takes you away from them. So thank you so much, Kambotrout. Really appreciate you. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Great New Year's. We'll catch you next time. And everyone on Instagram and on Facebook and on Twitter, have a good night and fish on, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, y'all.